Hello everyone. We'll take a look at how to recreate this um, image, this GIMP photoshopped image for the first assignment, which is the beach assignment. So at present we have this image that we're going to be recreating. As you can see, it's made of multiple layers, as you can see here. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers, and this is the original image that I had started out with. So if I unclick or blind the other objects, I can see that this was the original image that I started with, and I began adding things onto it, like this beach layer, the ramp, a boat, its shadow, and of course the writing, the title for uh, the creator of the image. So let's begin. So first I'm just going to file open the picture itself, the original screen picture, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the ocean picture, which was provided to you guys on the wiki. And here is the picture, the original picture that was provided on the wiki. So what I'd like to have is uh, this island here and the ocean, and I'm going to remove the sky, which I don't need because I want to replace it with the sunset scene, which I'll open as a layer. Now, if you were to open it uh, just by clicking on the open folder, it will open a new project, whereas I don't want to open a new project, I want to open the sunset as a layer. So my sunset scene is this one. Here's my sunset scene, and I'm going to also open my ramp. It's asking me to convert it to regular RGB, and I'm also going to open as layer the boat. Okay, so now I'm going to blind the boat, blind the ramp, and I'm just going to work with um, my sunset and my ocean. Now notice if I'm clicked here, it shows me the border of where my workspace is, but it's blinded. I can't see it, but if I unblind it, I can see it again. Now I took it off. If I click here, I am presently working in the sunset um, layer, and if I click here, I'm working in the ocean layer. But if I unclick now, I can see there's my ocean layer. So my objective is to remove the sky here and replace it with my sunset layer. Now I can do it in two manners. I can either set my sunset layer as the original and just cut out the sky here, or I can set my ocean as the original and cut out uh, the mountain here from the sunset and its ocean. What I'm going to do, just for sake of simplicity, I'm going to cut out the sky from the ocean picture. And what I'll do first is I'll begin by choosing something called the magic wand, or the fuzzy select tool. Sometimes it's called magic wand in Adobe Photoshop, but in GIMP it's called the fuzzy select tool. Now what this does, it selects colors of the same hue in a certain region. It will not select it all throughout. It will select it all throughout the picture, but it depends on the threshold that you want. So now, if I click on the fuzzy tool, I can see there's my threshold. It's at 15, and I'm going to leave it at 15 for now. And I'm going to click on feather edges so that I'd have smooth edges. If I don't click on feather edges, I would have square edges, which I don't really like. Now let's click on here. Now so far it's clicked this area, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this icon right here, which is adding to the current selection. As you can see now, it's gotten bigger. I'm going to click here again, the clouds, this a little bit more, this, this, yes. Now if I zoom in, I can see that it's not completely perfect. Uh, as you can see around the greenery, around the forest area, there's still a bit of blue showing. So I'm going to click again a bit more, a little bit more here. Okay. And that seems to be all right now. So we can now zoom out a little bit. Let's try to zoom in a bit more on the ocean itself. So you can see that it's not really perfect here. So I'm going to now choose the square uh, shape here, the rectangular shape, and I'm going to click again on add to selection, and I'm going to open a real rectangle like so, so I can get a nice finished straight edge there. As you can see, now it's nice and finished. Now, as you can see, this is called the ant line or the marching ant line, basically saying to you that whatever you do now happens only within this selection where that is surrounded by the marching ant line. Um, so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to delete uh, this area here, but if I to press on the delete button, what's going to happen? I'm going to get just a white background, which I don't want. I want to get rid of the background completely. So what I'm going to do is I need to add an alpha channel. And what an alpha channel does, it allows me to add a transparency. So we go into layer, transparency, add alpha. And now if I press on delete, now the surface is completely gone. Now I'm going to press on, and you can do it in two ways if you want to get rid of the marching ant line. You can either click on select and none, or you can click on Control Shift A, and that will get rid of your marching ant line. As you can see, my marching ant line is gone now. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my sunset layer below my ocean layer. And now if I click on the eye and make it visible, now I can see my sunset right behind my ocean layer. And I can see it's not really perfect because you can see there's this imperfection right here. And if we zoom in, it seems to be a bit squarish here. So I'm going to try to uh, smooth that out by either erasing it a little bit or um, yeah, perhaps I'll erase it a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll uh, select on my eraser, and I have to make sure that I am within the correct layer. Right now I'm not in the correct layer, so I'm going to click on the ocean layer, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to just erase a little bit right here. Now, also you have to make sure that you just in the you have the correct brush, because sometimes if you choose some of these brushes which have this fade out border, it may not be as easy as you want it to be in terms of trying to erase. So I picked a solid circle for as an eraser, and I'm just going to make it a bit small. I don't want it to be too big. So right about 10 should be sufficient to smooth out that area. Okay, let's get it the perfect 10. Okay, and I'm going to choose a smooth stroke. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. So I'm trying to smooth it out so it's not so square. That's a bit better. So it's basically progressively going down. The land is progressively going down into the ocean. Okay, so let's zoom out now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to um, I need to make my color scheme for the ocean the same as my uh, color, the same as my color for the skylight here, which is about a hue of orange. Now to do that again, I have to make sure that I am in ocean layer, and which I am. And there are different ways of doing this. What I'd like to do is go into the colors menu, and pick Colorify. Now, before I pick Colorify, I'm just going to show you what it provides you. It has different filters that you can use or screens, and you can also custom a color that you want. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out what kind of color is here. I know it's orange, but there are millions of colors, and I'd like to know what the code is for this color. So I'm going to go click on Windows. I'm going to click on Dockable Dialogues, and I'm going to click on Colors. I'm going to click on the dipper, the eyedropper, and I'm going to click here, and now it shows me a code for wherever I clicked. And if I keep clicking, if I hold my mouse button and I keep moving around, it's showing me the different codes for all these different colors. So I'm trying to pick something maybe close enough to what the ocean should look like. So right now I'm at this color. So I'm going to highlight this, copy it. I'm going to close this window. Now I'm going to go into Colorify. And in Colorify, I'm going to custom the color that I want. So in this case, paste, press enter. If I say OK, there's the color for the ocean. Now, it's a bit on the yellow oranges. It's a bit too yellowish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with my contrast and my brightness and maybe make the contrast a bit darker. No, we're getting close there. That looks a bit better, a bit more, a bit more. Because remember, this is a sunset scene, so things are getting darker. Do we make it less bright? That's about it. So again, it all depends on how you see things. In my point of view, the ocean should be a bit darker. So now I've matched my ocean with my sunset. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit on my island here, and I'm going to sort of lighten these edges here. And to do that, I click on the dodge burn. Oops. I'm going to click on the dodge burn tool. So I'm going to click on my dodge is already clicked, and I'm going to uh, take the midtones, and I'm going to first off I need my brush to be a little bit smaller, and I'm going to sort of lightly press here, and of course I am in the correct layer. As you can see now, I'm brightening my trees a little bit, and the reason why I'm doing that because the sun is hitting on this side. So if it's touching these trees or if it's facing these trees should have a bit of shine on them. I'm not going to do it to all the trees. Just going to do whatever is close by. I can keep doing this a little bit more. Right now it doesn't seem like much, but once I zoom out, you'll see the effect that it gives me. So let's zoom out. Now, it's not quite perfect, so I need to fix that up a little bit here. Now, if you're not happy with the dodging that you just created, you can always go and click on burn, and that will darken it back to whatever you wanted before. Now, again, it's slowly darkening. The other thing you can do is you can always use a brush and paint in black over it. I'm going to do is I'm just going to perfect that a little bit. I'm going to use a brush. I'm just going to pick black, and I'm just going to darken right here, just a little bit. Okay, so now I've added that effect to the trees. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with my ramp. I want to add my ramp onto here, and I'm just going to click on the I button so I can make it visible. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so making sure that I am in the ramp layer because anything I do has to be to the ramp has to be in the ramp layer. I'm going to move my picture just a little bit to the corner. Now again, I'm trying to remind you what the overall end product should be. This is what it should look like. So again, I want to have this ramp sticking out in the corner, facing the sun. So let's go back to here. So I want to remove everything around it. So I can use my lasso tool or the free select tool. I keep referring to these things with Adobe terms. You can refer to Adobe terms if you want to, but it's GIMP, so let's just say free select tool. So with the free select tool, I'm going to begin selecting what I want to keep out of this picture, which is the ramp. I'm not going to get these poles, it's not necessary. I'm keeping part of the shore here. Okay, so now I see the marching ant line once I connect to the last anchor that I created. Now again, I need to make sure that there's an alpha channel. So I've added an alpha channel. And I'm going to click on select invert. Why am I doing invert? Because this way whatever I want to delete will be outside, sorry, will be inside the selection. So actually I'm going to sort of undo that, undo invert selection. So if I click on, actually I do need to do invert selection because if I don't, then everything here would be deleted. So now I'm going to press on delete, and everything that was around that ramp that I did not need is gone. Okay, now I have these areas of shadows that shouldn't really be there because they don't make this ramp look very realistic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them and remove them from the scene. And I'm going to add the selection. Now one thing I forgot to do is I forgot to feather the edges when I deleted my background, because if you don't feather the edges, again you're going to get a square boundary, which doesn't look very nice, doesn't look very smooth. So I'm going to click on feather edges, and now I'm going to press on delete. So it will look a bit smoother. Okay, let's click on select, none. Okay, so now I'm going to, again, where I was, just going to sort of get rid of this imperfection here. Oops, it didn't work. Select none. That's one. I'm going to add the selection. On here also. I'm going to zoom in so I could just see a bit better what I'm doing. Now these, they don't seem to be too perfect, these selections are not completely square. That's okay, we can always use the eraser to get rid of them. Press delete and everything is gone. Now I'm going to select none. And I can see that it's not completely perfect, so I'm just going to use the eraser and get rid of the... Now you could have used the eraser the first time if you wanted to, it's fine. I'm just going to teach you how you can use the free select tool uh, and see how much you can do with it. Let's just make this a little bit smaller. Okay, let's move this around. Now here I've deleted a bit too much of the shadowing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone a bit of that shadowing area and bring it back to where I want to. So you click on the clone tool and you hold the control button so you can select what is your source to control to clone. So here, now I'm beginning to slowly clone. Oops. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to add a bit of shadowing under there in these areas. So what I'm going to do is instead of adding black squares for the shadowing, I'm going to go into the ocean area and I'm going to select these spots like I did with my lasso tool. And I'm just going to add a bit of contrast there. Same thing here, select this one. Now in this case, you can get rid of the feather edges if you want to have perfect square uh, areas. And I'm actually going to start over so I can have perfectly squarish selections. Okay, so now again, I want to make these areas darker, but instead of adding a black color or painting it, I'm just going to play around with the contrast, and I'm going to make them darker. Or actually, let's do the contrast as is. Just make them less bright. But we can still see that there is water under there, except that they are just a bit on the darker side. We'll do select none. Now, again, shadowing is not completely perfect, so I'm going to sort of use my smudging tool to make the shadowing appear as though it's sticking out a bit more, because this ledge probably does have a border that stick out. So I'm going to use my um, dodge to my smudge tool, and I'm going to make sure that I am in the correct layer, which is here. That's fine. And I'm just going to slowly, just gently dodge it and make it imperfect. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit and see what this looks like. So now it sort of looks a bit difficult because this area is a bit paler than this one. So what we can do, um, we can either use our burn or dodge tool to sort of brighten this area, or we can delete it altogether and clone this area onto here. We could do that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this area a little bit onto here. I'm going to select this as my tool. First off, I make sure I'm in the ocean area, so this is to clone. I'm going to go into the ramp area and begin to clone a little bit. I'm just going to undo because I sort of didn't do it properly with my ramp here. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in just to make it a bit more perfect, because you can see all these little darker edges. It doesn't look too good, so now I'm going to make this as my clone source and get rid of these darker edges here. I'm going to use my smudge tool to try to make this blend a little bit more easily. And I'm going to make the darker surface here also blend in a little bit more. Now if we zoom out, we can sort of correct this a little bit here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make this surface, this shadowing here a little bit darker than these ones since uh, it has less light exposure. So using my lasso tool, and I'm going to do feather edges here. Oops, select none. Okay, now right about here. And my brightness contrast, make this a little bit darker. Let's see, I'll select none. Looks a little bit better than before, than having just complete dark surface. Okay, now again the ramp looks a little bit too bright for this scenery, so I'm going to play around with either my contrast or my brightness or even color find, try to make this a little bit darker. Now what I'm doing here is making it too bright, so let's just make it, no, this is not working too well. So we'll use the colorify tool to add a bit of yellow, and I'm going to play with my contrast tool and make it a little bit darker. So it looks a little bit more realistic. Okay, now since this edge is a bit closer to the sunlight, I'm going to add a filter onto it. I'm going to make this area here have a sun effect or a lighting effect. And to do that, once again, make sure that I'm selected in ramp. I click on filters, light and shadows, and I click on lighting effects. And I'm going to bring the light here a little bit. As you can see, this blue dot is, you can imagine it to be the sun. So just bring it a little bit closer here. As you can see, uh, my my light gets my ramp gets brighter as I bring the circle closer to it. And we press on OK and see what happens. So now the surface here is a little bit brighter, but it's not quite what I wanted. So I'm going to click undo lighting effect, and I'm going to try that again. I'm going to put it a bit further to the front and press OK. Alright, that's a bit better. It's a bit more realistic because you can see that the lighting here is much brighter. Now I'm going to add my um, boat, which I have, as you can see in the original picture. So what I want now is I'm going to select the boat layer, and I'm going to just select the boat in this case, and I'm going to not make it feather edged. I'm just going to make it sharp edged here and try to add as much anchor point as possible so that it's a bit smoother. So that's one. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to add this sail onto that selection. I'm going to add this other sail now. Zoom out. And I'm going to make sure again it has an alpha channel. Every time you add a layer, you have to add an alpha channel to it, basically a transparency channel. And I'm going to select invert so I could delete everything around it, and voila, select none. So now I have all this extra space within this picture which I don't need, so I'm going to click on the layer, right click on it, and click on a layer boundary size, which I'm going to make a bit smaller. So I'm going to lock the chain so that both the width and height are modified. Click on percentage and lower it. Make it smaller. Center the picture. Make it a little bit smaller because we don't need all that extra space in here. That's better. Now I've resized it. Now I'm going to make the boat a bit smaller because it looks huge compared to the island in the background, even though we can say that it's closer to us. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller, a bit more realistic. And I make sure that my chain is locked so that my width and my height are changed proportionally. And I'm going to move it. Oops, sorry, I moved the wrong one. So make sure I'm here. Okay. Now I need to add a shadow as I have here in the picture that I had created. So what I'm going to do is we're going to duplicate this layer. There's my duplicate. I'm going to just move it out of the way so I can see the difference. Now, fortunately here, I don't really have a tool for doing a horizontal mirror. What I'm going to do is I'm going to uh, vertically mirror it, and I'm going to also rotate it. I'm going to bring it down, so now it's mirror imaged. I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And now I'm going to shear it. And move this bit down. I'm going to just reduce the part here, get a little bit smaller. I'm going to stretch it on one side. And now I'm going to just delete this part here because the shadow of the boat will not go over the ramp. So we'll just delete this area here. Okay, select none. Now I'm going to reduce the transparency of this layer so as to make it look like a shadow. Okay, now I'm just going to move it a little bit here, and that's better. I'll move my original layer a bit down, and maybe make my boat just a little bit bigger, and my shadow a little bit bigger. Okay, that looks better. Now, I'm going to now do the final step, which is to label this, and I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to select my text tool, and I'm going to click, make this a little bit bigger, and I'm going to type created by Mr. Healy. I can make it a bit bigger so that it all fit, and I'm going to type date, August 28th, 2012. Now, I'm going to change the font color so that it can stand out a bit more, white. And if I wanted to also, I can duplicate this layer, move, change the color on this one to black. That's fine. And the reason why I did that because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shadow effect under my writing. I'm going to merge these two layers together. So by clicking on the text layer, the white text, and merge down. And now I'm able to move them both together at the same time. And that's it.